Hello, viewers. The main content of this episode includes Rubio will lead Venezuela's transition reforms, live coverage of Maduro's first court trial, Trump considers reopening the embassy in Venezuela, Republican leaders say capturing Maduro does not need Congress approval first, the U.S. warns Venezuela's 5 allies not to make trouble. First, let's look at the latest focus. President Trump picks Rubio to lead Venezuela's transition reforms. After Maduro was captured and appeared in court in New York, U.S., President Trump has asked Secretary of State Rubio to lead the process of carrying out economic and political reforms in Venezuela and to oversee the transition work. On January 5th, White House Homeland Security Advisor Miller said that Trump asked Rubio to serve as the leader of this process under the president's close guidance and command. He said this new role is Rubio's 4th job in the Trump government, and also the most challenging one. He will lead a team that includes officials in charge of energy, finance, and military policies. The Washington Post report also thinks that this new role will be the really hard part in Rubio's career. Rubio already has many jobs, and this is without doubt a challenging and scary big task. A U.S. senior official who asked to stay unnamed said, "The tasks in front of him are so hard, it makes people stare in surprise." He pointed out that around topics like energy, elections, sanctions, and safety, there is a long list of policy decisions waiting for him that make eyes dizzy. Miller thinks that Rubio is leading a big team, and this group of people work well together and are very close. This moment marks the achievement of Rubio's long-term goal. For more than 10 years, he has always openly criticized Maduro and expressed his wish to push for change in Venezuela. U.S. officials say that as the Trump government tries to make Venezuela's situation stable, Rubio will play a very important role in guiding U.S. policy. Another U.S. senior official said that Rubio knows Spanish well, is familiar with leaders in Latin American countries and Venezuela's opposition, so he is naturally Trump's best lead person. Trump stressed that the U.S. will run Venezuela until new elections are held, and he himself is the final person in charge. But Trump did not explain more about how to manage it, just said, "The person standing behind me will handle it for a period of time." This person standing behind is Rubio. Rubio cleared up Trump's words about how to run Venezuela. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, he said, "This is not taking over. It's carrying out policy. It's policy work for this matter." The White House expects that if Venezuela's temporary government works with the U.S., it will bring huge economic benefits to Venezuela, with big oil producers putting in billions of dollars to develop Venezuela's oil reserves. But Trump stressed that before holding new elections, the first task is to fix the country. We must make this country healthy again. Rubio said that holding elections in Venezuela now is not ready. In an NBC interview, Trump said that besides Rubio and Miller, Defense Secretary Hagerty and Vice President Vance are expected to play key roles in Venezuela matters. This is a team that includes everyone. They all have skills, different skills. Now, Venezuela's former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has sworn in as president. Above, we bring you the latest news from the U.S. Please keep watching American Express, more great content for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, remember to click subscribe and turn on the little bell. Don't miss our every update. Next, let's focus on the live coverage of Maduro's first court trial. British media BBC reported on January 6 that the captured Maduro, under U.S. Marshals escort, walked into a courtroom in New York City, and you could hear the sound of chains hitting echo in the room. He then said to the seats full of reporters and public that he had just been kidnapped. A few minutes after he entered the court, Judge Alvin Hellerstein asked Maduro to confirm his identity to start the process. In the 40-minute hearing on the afternoon of January 5th, Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores said they are not guilty to the drug and weapon charges. The two wore blue and orange prison clothes and khaki pants, and wore earphones to hear Spanish translation, with a lawyer sitting between them. Maduro carefully took notes on yellow legal paper and asked the judge to confirm he could keep these notes after court. Maduro had no expression on his face during the whole process. At the end, a watcher suddenly shouted that Maduro would pay the price for his crimes. Maduro shouted in Spanish to that man, "I am a president and also a war prisoner." Then the man was taken out of the court with tears. Maduro's wife Flores seemed much quieter, with bandages around her eyes and forehead. The lawyer said this was from injuries when she was captured over the weekend. Maduro and his wife did not ask for bail in the trial, but can ask later, which means they will stay in federal jail. The U.S. charges Maduro with drug terrorism plot, cocaine import plot, having machine guns and destructive devices, and plot to have machine guns and destructive devices. Maduro and his wife, son, and other people were charged together. The next trial is set for March 17th. Next is Trump considers reopening the embassy in Venezuela. U.S. President Trump said on January 4th on Air Force One that Washington is thinking about reopening the U.S. embassy in Venezuela. This check is happening at a key time when the U.S. is putting more pressure on Venezuela and reshaping relations after capturing Maduro. AP quoted State Department officials saying that after Maduro stepped down, the government has started making early plans so that after the president decides, U.S. diplomats can go back to Caracas. But officials also stressed that no final decision has been made yet. Fully running a closed embassy needs a lot of setup, security, and people, and it might take months. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas closed in 2019 when the U.S. pulled out all diplomats because the country's situation got worse. Since then, U.S. business with Venezuela has been handled by the embassy in Colombia. Former U.S. ambassador to Venezuela, Robinson said reopening the embassy will let the U.S. talk directly to Venezuela's political people and military leaders, helping to build influence there. He said no amount of phone calls can replace building relationships on the ground. After Maduro was captured alive, Trump has warned Venezuela's acting president Rodriguez many times, hinting that if not cooperative, the U.S. does not rule out a second military action. And Rodriguez has sent milder signals, calling for the two countries to build a balanced, mutual respect relationship and inviting Washington to push for cooperation. Next, let's see what U.S. Congress leaders say about the U.S. military capturing Maduro. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune said on January 5th that the Trump government's action to capture Venezuela President Maduro does not need Congress approval first. Thune told reporters he is happy with the briefings he got. He said although the government did not tell first, in this kind of very sensitive key mission, telling Congress early might cause risks, so it's okay. House Speaker Johnson also stressed that the Constitution Article 2 gives the president power as commander of the armed forces, allowing the president to act to protect Americans and carry out federal laws. So this capture action does not need Congress agreement first, just tell after. The U.S. military action caused arguments in Congress. Some Democratic members worry the U.S. might get into another long conflict like Afghanistan. To this, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Mast fought back, saying the Trump government is not one that lets war drag on forever. Johnson also cleared up that the U.S. is not at war with Venezuela and has not sent troops to take over there. Republicans stressed that arresting Maduro is a short law enforcement action, does not need Congress approval first. This U.S. military action started early on January 3rd, successfully capturing Maduro and his wife Flores in Venezuela's capital. Because the mission was very secret, the White House only told Congress's Gang of Eight after the action started, including Thune, Johnson, Schumer, and Jeffries from both parties. Democrats criticized the government for going around Congress, stressing that Constitution Article 1 gives war declaring power clearly to Congress, thinking the Trump government went over its power. Thune and Johnson fought back, saying this action is carrying out the Justice Department's arrest order, not starting a war. Thune said in a statement that Maduro and his drug group behind have sent drugs to the U.S. for years, causing hundreds of thousands of deaths. The Trump government acted fast. It's an important first step to bring him to justice. The Senate expects to vote this week on whether to limit the White House from taking more military actions against Venezuela without Congress approval. Next is the U.S. government warning Venezuela's 5 allies, including China. After the U.S. military raided Caracas and captured Venezuela President Maduro, the situation in the Western Hemisphere changed fast. Trump stressed that the U.S. leading position in the area will no longer be challenged. The next day, Secretary of State Rubio warned Venezuela's 5 big allies, China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and Turkey, asking them to stop using Venezuela as a front base against the U.S. For many years, Maduro's government could hold on, and it's widely thought to be closely tied to support from these 5 countries. Studies point out that China and Venezuela's ties deepened from Chavez's time. China buys a lot of oil and puts money into building satellite projects and high-speed rail plans and sends out monitoring and digital ID tech, forming a fatherland card system like China's model, becoming an important tool for social control in Venezuela. Russia is Maduro's government's most active safety backup. Russia gives military stuff, fake news operations, and money support, helps Venezuela avoid sanctions, even sends cybersecurity and military experts. Cuba's influence on Venezuela is more direct. Chavez saw Castro as a teacher. The two countries worked closely for years. Large numbers of Cuban doctors, teachers, and spy people went into Venezuela, deeply involved in its society and safety systems. Iran focuses on helping Venezuela go around U.S. sanctions, often sending fuel and oil refining materials. In exchange, Iran gets Venezuela's oil. The U.S. has seized oil tankers many times to block this strategic cooperation. Also, Hezbollah from Lebanon uses Venezuela as a base, running drug and money-washing networks in many Latin American countries, and keeps contact with Maduro's government, letting Iran and its agents get closer to U.S. land. Rubio stressed that the world's biggest oil reserves cannot fall into governments not friendly to the U.S., and questioned the real reasons for China, Russia, Iran's involvement in Venezuela. Next, let's focus on a scene that happened in front of the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles. Outside the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles, an unusual scene happened recently. Some Chinese people gathered there to celebrate the capture of Venezuela's former president Maduro. But during the event, a fight happened. The consulate security sprayed pepper spray on the crowd, causing chaos. The event leader, Jie Lijian, said that near the end of the event, a consulate security suddenly sprayed pepper spray on democracy activists in the public area, causing 8 people hurt, with 3 sent to hospital fast. Police came and put handcuffs on the security and took him away. Based on Prisoner Info Center data, this security now faces serious crime charges. The background of the event is that Maduro appeared in New York's Southern District Federal Court on Monday, facing many charges like supporting drug groups. When the news came out, it caused many Chinese in the U.S. to respond. They showed happiness and envy outside the consulate. Former China Maritime Bureau worker Li Jing said after the news came out, she shared it in her friend circle right away and got likes from many friends inside the system by surprise. Former China delivery worker Dong Ming said his Venezuela friends told him that when they fought for freedom, the government shot to stop them, making him think of China's history events. Many participants think that the Chinese Communist Party and Maduro's government support each other. Their fates might be similar. They hope China can also welcome a day of change. Jie Lijian said Chinese people's suffering has not ended. Hope it can be like Venezuela. Get out of dictatorship soon. Former Hong Kong resident Liao Wenhao called for the world to help. Just like helping Venezuela people, also support Chinese people. Former China building company project manager Li Shiding believes that one day the Communist Party will be broken down. Next is content about the Trump government pushing new policy. The U.S. Trump government has made big changes to the U.S. children's vaccine plan, overturning the rules about children's vaccines for many years. This big change means U.S. authorities will no longer suggest that all kids must get vaccines for rotavirus and flu diseases. This new policy was announced by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as head of the U.S. Health Department. He has long doubted vaccines. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, from now on will only suggest high-risk groups or kids that parents and doctors think need it to get vaccines for those diseases and hepatitis A, hepatitis B, meningococcal. The U.S. CDC already used this suggestion for COVID-19 vaccines last year. Based on U.S. CDC suggestions at the end of 2024, all kids got 17 vaccines, but now reduced to 11. Trump praised these changes. Last month, he told health officials to compare U.S. and other similar countries' vaccine plans. Officials paid special attention to Denmark's way. Now, the latest U.S. Health Department suggestions are more like Denmark's way. American Academy of Pediatrics Infectious Diseases Committee Chair Sean O'Leary has different views on this change. He stressed, any decisions about U.S. children's vaccine plan should be based on proof, openness, and mature science process, not just by comparing countries or different medical systems and ignoring key differences between them. Finally, let's look at a report about U.S. celebrating 250 years since founding with a series of events. On January 5th, the new version of U.S. 250th anniversary coins started to be given out. These coins are seen as carrying U.S. history and showing the country's values. This year's coins have pictures of pilgrims and early presidents George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. This year, the U.S. will hold a series of events to celebrate America's 250th anniversary and remember the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This year's coins, besides the normal making year, will have extra 1776 printed. These special coins were approved in 2021, but went through big changes. Before, suggested themes like ending slavery, women's voting rights, and civil rights movement were all removed, changed to themes showing U.S. success and love for country. The final designs include George Washington with the War of Independence, Thomas Jefferson with the Declaration of Independence, James Madison with the Constitution, Abraham Lincoln with the Gettysburg Address, and remembering the Mayflower Compact with Pilgrim immigrants. The Mint says these coin designs show U.S. moving toward a more perfect union and praise freedom ideas. The Mint also plans to give out $1 coins with President Trump's picture to remember U.S. 250 years since founding.